All right, guys, episode 23, really special one. We have Steve Wolk. Like I've said with Wendy and David Schreiber, one of the most impactful parents we've ever had. Was around for a really long time with us because Aaron was coming up through the youth and then through the high school. And just like, Schreiber and Wendy, still around, was at counties this year. Great to see him. Great to see the support. So Steve, we'll start like we've started almost every interview with the wrestlers, basically asking how they get into wrestling. For you, what made you decide to get Aaron into wrestling in the youth level?
Yeah, so I think I have to give Carol, my wife, credit, most of the credit there, and Coach DeBillis, who I think, I don't recall exactly the cost, but I think he put out a poster saying for something like 100 or $150, I'll let your kids wrestle 3 times a week for the next couple months or something like that. And boy, that I didn't know anything about wrestling. I really didn't care. But he was a kid with a lot of energy, and if you're going to watch my kid for that much, whatever you want to do with him is fine. So that worked out. He went there and he rolled around a little, and to your great credit, instead of being a hard ass, you made it fun, and you taught him a little, and you had the right balance. And I mean that, great credit, because I do believe there are, I've seen it, a lot of people who are, very aggressively trying to do every push-up and every pull-up and do all these hard things and what are you doing wrong and all that sort of thing. That's a really good way of turning most kids off. But no, he was into it. And then you took advantage of the fact that he was into it and said, go to a tournament, dude. And he really, really liked winning, and he really hated losing, and took off from there.
That's come up so often in so many people's interview that they just, like Khalid even said it yesterday, I hate losing. And that drives people. Either they do something about losing, they change it, or they do something else.
Well, in this sport especially, you can't be successful if you're okay with losing. Like I don't think that's a thing. But Steve, to your point with the Dallas and Youth program, I think I've been around a lot of wrestling in my 33 years of life, right? And high level, youth wrestling, all sorts of different things. And I think Coach DeBellis does the youth program perfect because, and in Aaron's case, and then eventually, Jacobs and Nats and those guys, they decided to take wrestling to the next level. They were doing some off-season stuff and all of that, even when they were younger. But just to introduce you to the sport, that's the way you need to do it. It's youth wrestling, and I enjoyed it. So how was his success early on, Steve? I know later on it was, I think I met Aaron when he was like 5th grade. So I was a little later to the game, but early on, how was his success?
I remember his first tournament.
Well, he was, successful pretty quickly. Actually, I think his first match, he may have lost.
Yep.
And he came off the mat, either crying or close to crying. I don't know, was he 7 years old or something like that? And I probably shouldn't say this in public, but whatever, I'll say it anyway. So he said he was choking me. And I couldn't breathe. I just couldn't breathe. And I said, Aaron, you could breathe. And he said, no. And he was very upset. And that potentially was an inflection point. I mean, that could have been like, I'm done with this. Man, if people are going to choke me out, that's not good. It's the one thing I knew how to do since I was a baby, breathe. Yeah. And I said, all right, Aaron, do you trust me? He said, of course I trust you, Dad. He said, do you really trust me? He said, yeah. I said, who's stronger, those kids or me? And he said, you're way stronger than all those kids. And of course, at that time I was. Now I'm not stronger than anyone. But I said, what I'm going to do? I'm going to choke you harder than any of those kids could ever possibly. And I said, you trust me, right? Yep. So I got behind him and I literally put him in a chokehold. And it was hard for him to breathe. And I said to him at the time, you trust me? He said, which probably doesn't sound good these days, but even worse.
Reporters, right?
What's that?
We're mandated reporters, right?
It's past the, what's it called? The statute of limitations. We're good.
Child Protective Services, and then, and then, of course, I let him go. He could breathe the whole time. And I turned around. I said, could you breathe? Yeah, I can breathe. I said, there's no kid out there, not one, who could possibly choke you even close to what I just did. and you could breathe the whole time. And he went out there and he kicked ass.
He actually wrestled the same kid again in that tournament, didn't he?
He did. He did.
He ended up. They did a round robin, and he ended up winning that Beacon tournament.
Yep. And
like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Coach, did you know that he was going to be a stud that tournament? Just how he fought back and he lost. Did you have, maybe not to the extent that he ended up being, but did you see something in him because he lost that kid first and then he beat the kid last? Were you like, there's something in this kid that's a little different?
Well, I just liked the way how he was so upset when he lost and so elated when he won, and those two things.
Yeah.
If those losses bother you that much that you're willing to do something about it, you're a champion, no matter what level, where you finish in the state. Now, Aaron won a state title. I mean, that's the ultimate. There's nothing better than that in high school, right? But he could have certainly been a section champ or whatever, and it would have been just as good. But you could tell right away the kids that are going to fight for it and the kids that maybe need to be trained harder. And
I want Steve's opinion on this because we're going to go through Aaron and Steve's journey through wrestling more than other things. But, I think now we're a young team, right? We're trying to get back up. But I feel like we do go through peaks and valleys. Like before Aaron, Matt, and Jacob got there, we were rebuilding again. They came, we got really good. But it might be really hard to match those three guys that were so committed, 3 All-State guys in 1 year, all wanted to win, all hated to lose. But like you said, Coach, like we didn't have to force Aaron to want to be that guy. He wanted to be that guy. No, we guided, Steve guided, everybody guided him, but he was hungry. He wanted it, right? It's hard when we have some athletes that I feel like, not that they're bad kids, they're great kids. It's just like, they don't understand maybe why they should want it as bad as they should, if that makes sense. And we're kind of dealing with that now, I would say.
I think Aaron's mentality was just different. He didn't seem to ever be nervous. He never felt, when he went out there.
Senior and junior year, maybe a little young, not nervous, but I would sense like a little like, but senior, we'll get into it. Steve could attest to this. Senior year, I mean, that guy, the day he walked into Pepsi Arena or whatever, Times Union Center, whatever they call it now, I saw that look in his eye. I'm like, he ain't losing this tournament. Like, it's not happening.
He wasn't the guy you worried about losing to a guy that wasn't better than him. He beat the guys that should have beat him every time.
Every time, yeah, pretty much every time.
Crazy. And then once he passed you, there was no looking back. He was not going to ever lose to you. Once he caught you, you're done. He put on the afterburners and see you later. Eat dust.
Yeah, I will say, even with the folks who he felt, had, greater skill or that sort of thing, he still went after them. I mean, I remember, his freshman year at Eastern States with Gisson Danner. I mean, the guy was huge and a terrific wrestler. I mean, and he had won the previous year. He was a year ahead of Aaron and won states and all that. And, but Aaron shot first. He would still go after him. And that was true. Brady Robin in his freshman year, so he still went after him. The folks who did end up beating him. So, did he always have confidence he could beat them? I don't know that, but he always tried.
The one person that he didn't have, and I think it could have been a lot closer of a match if he was confident, was Grant Cuomo. And I think that's because they trained together. Grant was a little older, and they wrestled very much alike. So I think Aaron felt like he kind of took some of Grant's skills, and he was kind of like, almost like mentor-mentee, but they were close in age. And I think he kind of put him a bit on a pedestal. And Grant's great. I mean, Grant's doing a phenomenal job in college. Grant was a great high school wrestler. I'm not saying Aaron would have won that match at that time, but I think he wrestled a little bit different that match than he wrestled tough. He wasn't going to get pinned or anything like that, but I think because he would never get pinned that one time. He's and we'll get into that too, such a tough son of a gun, but I think he put him a little bit on a pedestal, and that's the only time in his high school career, I think, when he kind of took a bit of a backseat.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And actually, when he wrestled Grant for, I think, the section title.
10th grade. Yeah, 10th grade.
Yeah, 10th grade. Grant was in his junior year. Grant actually got him into a cradle then. I don't know if you remember, but and almost no one gets Aaron into Cradle because, you know, he knows Cradle very well from both sides of the table. And Aaron did break out of it. But yeah, that was surprising. And I think you're right. In fact, I'm certain you are.
Yeah, and Grant, and that's not knock really at Aaron because at all, because Grant was really freaking good, as was Aaron. But like, it's just, you know, a year older makes a difference. Both of them superstars. Both of them back-to-back state champs in the same weight class, which I love because they both were great kids and club kids. But I don't want to bounce around too much. Let's finish youth. I met him a little bit later, but I remember this distinct memory. I don't know if he was in 5th or 6th grade, but we were at Bayshore for youth states, and I just started dealing with like the Greeley guys. I was more with the high school varsity guys. I started learning about like Aaron and Matt and Jacob and Nate at the time. You know, Joe Sasso, I think, was still 8th grade or 7th grade youth. So I was there with the Iowa style guys, like Tyler Albus was there with those guys, but I was there with those guys too. And I remember Aaron took 3rd, and he wrestled great. He took 3rd. And I remember I went to go say bye. I don't know if Steve remembers this, but I went to go say bye to Steve and Aaron. I was like, I'll see you guys later, blah, blah, blah. And Aaron had like his little medal around his neck or whatever, but he was crying. And I was like, I asked Steve, I'm like, Steve, what's wrong? Why is he upset? And he's like, oh, he wanted to take 1st. And in my head, I swear to you on everything, I remember this like yesterday. In my head, I was like, this kid's going to be a champ. This kid, if he's, I mean, you know, he's a baby still. He's a 5th, 6th grader. He's not he's a little kid. So it's okay to be upset like that. Who cares? But like like you said, Coach, that hatred of losing, you saw it at such an early age. And you can't, I mean, I'm sure Steve had a lot to do with it. Carol had a lot to do with it. But you can't make that into somebody. I feel like you kind of have to be that person, you know? So, Steve, do you remember that day?
Oh, no, I absolutely do. He only came there for one reason.
Yeah, love it.
And I don't know if it was that year, 7th grade. You know, he got 8th grade. Of course, he won, but you know, he came home. He's not a good person to drive with when he loses, so you don't want a long way. So in 8th grade, when we had to go all the way at upstate, we were thinking, oh man, and we all went. You know, Carol and Zach and his younger brother, and we were thinking we have like a 4-hour, 5-hour ride home after this. I really hope he wins. But yeah, he was pretty upset, and he came home and he just did like a ton of pull-ups after that until he like had nothing left in his arms, and he was like, this will never happen again and all that. You know, he was just he was not a happy person. And yeah, you're right. And another coach, when we were going around to colleges, said kind of something similar to what you guys have said. He saw Aaron at NHSCA. And Aaron had been rolling through and doing well, and then he ended up hurting his knee and losing the match. He said, he told me later, he didn't introduce himself at the time, but he said later the reason he was interested in Aaron was Aaron looked so upset. And you know, I don't know if he's crying or barely, you know, and of course he's in high school then. And, you know, and he was so upset about losing. And then he was secondary. First thing for me, but yeah, that it made a difference, you know, certainly to you guys, but to a lot of coaches. They want guys who hate to lose.
Steve, you want to hear an interesting fact? 2 of our guys, you know, Aaron and Jacob, both got noticed by college coaches in losses. That's interesting to me because to me, like, you know, with both those guys, like you said, they hate to lose, and we'll get into their relationship a little later too, because I found that to be very interesting where, you know, they made each other better. They scrapped. Like there were some times when they would go in practice and you need like, and the weird thing is, and I said this, I don't know if you agree with this, Steve. I said this to DeBellis before, that Matt, Jacob, and Aaron were all really good, all state wrestlers, all wrestling Division I right now, all wanted to win, all like-minded in that sense, but each one of them were so different. They were not alike. They weren't alike at all, but they still had the same, like Matt, Jacob, I can't really think of many similarities.
I think that's exactly right. But I would say that I really doubt any of them would have been quite as good without the other two.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah. I think iron, steel sharpens steel, or whatever the saying is, especially like Aaron and Jacob, especially because they can make each other literally better by wrestling with each other. Aaron articulated it great in his interview saying, like, you know, Jacob would get on a shot, I would counter it one way. then Jacob would have to try to figure out how to fix that counter, so he would score on that, but then I would get a new counter to that count. So like they made each other better. But then the same thing with Matt and Aaron, where they were the same grade, they were buddies, and they were kind of competing in a friendly way, but they were kind of competing like, hey, like I got 35 wins, you got 33 wins. Like they were on each other the whole time. And
oh yeah,
I think that helped also.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's stay in pace. I know I bounce around a lot. So I met him there. He took third. The next year he won it. You said, Steve?
In eighth grade.
Eighth grade?
Yeah.
So that might have been sixth when I saw him. So another year and then eighth grade. And we knew coming in that he was going to be good. Right. And we talked about that with Matt a little bit. Aaron even a little bit more so, because Matt started getting a little bit more good results towards the end of his middle school career and youth career. Aaron was always pretty steadily doing very well. So we're like, this guy's going to be a guy for us right away. But
well, if I could interject.
Go ahead.
So you may have known he was going to be good. I would suggest to you, I disagree a little. I think that what he showed is heart. Especially in a match. But, as I think about what helped Aaron to become a success, there were a lot of things, and if he didn't have those things, all the heart in the world isn't going to make a bit of difference, quite frankly. Skill, strength, giving him the time to be able to do that. And, fortunately we were able to do that. But, you guys, there's so many components that have to come together, and maybe one little thing could be missing here or there or whatever, but the heart was there, and but other than that, again, there's all these things had to come together the right way.
Well, like you said too, and we, I'm bouncing around, but yeah, like I knew he was going to be good. But what I was going to say too is I didn't know he was going to be that good right off the bat, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody.
Because he was great youth wrestler, and like you said, and as we go on with his career, even his junior year, he was an all-state wrestler, but he wasn't a phenomenon on his feet. He wasn't, he found ways to win because he was a tough son of a gun, and he wanted to win, and he did what was necessary to win. Like Steve was saying, putting in the extra work, doing the pull-ups, listening to his mom and dad, listening to us, like doing what he needed to do. But man, his freshman year, when he came on the scene, he was having a really good year. I remember when he wrestled Ross Mandel, Yorktown guy.
Yeah.
At the time, Aaron ended up having like a quadruple, and I don't know if Ross watches these. I highly doubt it. But Ross is a great kid, but you can't compare their stats. But as a freshman, we were kind of like, this kid's been around. He's established. Like, this is going to be a tough one.
Right. He was the top of the Yorktown team.
And I went out there and kicked him, beat him up. And I'm like, holy cow, this guy's for real. You remember that?
Yeah, I absolutely remember
Ross
that.
ran out of the room. Wasn't good for Ross, but it was good for Aaron.
Oh, that was exciting. As you can imagine, as his dad, that was because actually Aaron was down, I think, by a point or two, but he looked good at the time, even though he was down. And then he pinned him, and that was that. Yeah, that was exciting.
That was unbelievable. At that moment, Steve, did you know that like even in the high school level, like he's gonna be in the mix at sectionals? Like, did you know that, like, all right, now he's here, kind of, or were you still not sure?
I'm not certain, and that can be for two reasons. One, because quite frankly, I just really didn't know the scene well enough. I did believe that he was going to win, 25 matches or more. I was thinking at least 25 matches in his freshman year. But I also didn't like to project my hopes onto him, because it's got to come from him. And I, you don't want to bounce around too much, but I think I've seen too many parents who sort of project their hopes onto their kids, and that doesn't help in any way. Like, in my opinion, if the kid doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. And, it's just too stressful. So, Aaron, of course, knew I wanted him to win, but I didn't, I wasn't going to tell him he's got to be state champ or something.
But we were so lucky in that sense, Coach, because if you look at our big three, right, and same with them, right, like Steve, Carol, David, Kathy, Wendy, Jose, they all were so different from each other, but they all supported their kids. They didn't, and most parents hopefully support their kids, but they didn't put their hopes and dreams on their kids. It was what they wanted to do, right? You know, they just wanted them to try as hard as they could, be the best they could be. And we were really liking that sense because it was a good support system. Where I think sometimes and Steve knows, Steve's been around wrestling for a really long time, and me and you know, where I'll see parents that are not saying the right things. And it's like, you're not, you might make them win a match as a fifth grader here because you're pushing them real hard, but they don't want it. They're doing it for you. You know, it's different.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is you got to let your kid breathe at the tournaments. Don't get in his head. Don't talk to, let us do the wrestling piece. And I think Steve and David and Wendy and Jose, they all understood that fairly early. That we do, let us handle the wrestling part, you handle the kid part. And I think that works out pretty well. And I actually, it ebb and flows a little bit because, we do a little bit of the parenting side too, and they do a little of the coaching side.
Sure. Well, especially Steve, because Steve was into fitness and athletics and stuff like that, where I know he had, everyone was talking about his interview, like, the pull-ups and the working out and challenging him, right? Like, and Steve, I want you to talk on this, but in my head, this is how I see it, right? And I could be a little off. I like to work out myself, right? Obviously. And if Luca wants to wrestle, great. I'm going to try my hardest not to be his primary coach. I'd rather be dad and let, now that I have guys like Aaron and Jacob and guys that coach, let them coach them. I'll just, I'll maybe whisper something in their ear, but like, I'll be in the background. But that doesn't mean that if we have a pull-up bar in the house, I'm not going to be like, hey, I just ripped out 20. I'm making you do. Like, I love that. I love the idea of that, where it's like you're bonding, but at the same time, you're challenging them. And I think that's what Steve did, and that's a really good relationship to have. Would you say that's kind of correct, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron loves the challenge, but we're, and quite frankly, I run a lot. I can't tell you I enjoy running, but I do enjoy running with Aaron, or my younger son, Zach. That for me, that's a lot more fun. Working together, it's just so much easier. And I envy you. You've got a baby who's just coming up, and it's going to be just a joy. And whether she's into wrestling or running or whatever, I think wrestling's been terrific. But whatever it is, you support them as I know you guys do. But that was a big part of I didn't. Yes, I could help them work out, but I don't know wrestling. Now I'm smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough to know. So, I'm not going to tell them, you never heard me yelling out exactly what move to do because I don't have a clue. I remember, in the tournament in 8th grade, that final tournament, and people were looking at me, and I sat in the corner because we were all the way up there, and I was theoretically his coach, whatever that was, but I didn't do anything. And people said, why don't you tell him what to do here or there? I said, because what am I going to tell him? I'll just tell him something wrong. He's on the mat. He knows what he's doing. I certainly don't know. And, that's why, I know where to stop. And also it's a matter of having great faith in both of you guys. And if I didn't have that, of course, I think things would be a little bit different. But, again, to your credit, trust is really important to me. And being able to trust you guys allowed me to just, do my thing and then let it go from there.
Yeah, it was certainly a great fun time.
It turned out to work out pretty well. But I like I said, I've been trying to bounce around a little too much. But I want to say one more thing before we get to Aaron's freshman year sectionals, because to me, that was one of my favorite tournaments of his. Obviously states, but that something about sectionals freshman year really showed me what he was made out of. We talked in Aaron's interview about this a little bit. I wanted to bring it up with you also, Steve, is the idea of off-season wrestling, right? And he told us, and I don't know if you remember this, but he told us that there was like a Danbury youth tournament or something like that, and he didn't have a good showing there. And he's like, I need to be better. So at the time, Askren was around, who a lot of his early wrestling came from, like the Cradle series and a lot of that stuff. And he went there and got a lot better. And then, once Askren kind of was gone, he ended up being an Iowa style / Empire guy. And that's when me and Aaron's relationship probably got a little closer too, because I was there. Maybe speak a little bit about that club wrestling type idea before we jump into the rest of his freshman year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, going along, with Coach DeBellis, coaching him, and you coached him, quite a bit at the different tournaments, and in New York. We were on our own in Danbury, but we were together at Beacon and all the others. I don't know if you remember that, but that was great fun. I've got good videos of you coaching him, and they're fun to watch.
YouTube or something. I don't know. We were looking. I think I was looking for Aaron's finals match, and I saw all those youth tournaments. Man, it was.
Yeah, they're fun. And you did a terrific job. You knew how to do it. But so we went to Danbury, and I took him around, and I think that's a big part of helping your kid to learn is taking the tournaments that where he's good, and quite frankly where he's going to get beat up. And Aaron had been successful previously, very successful. Not because he was very skilled, but because he just refused to lose. And he was perhaps a little bit stronger than some of the kids for his weight. He went and got beat up pretty good by guys he used to beat. I think he went 0-4. That was the last time he ever went 0-4, ever. But he came out of that, and he was a pretty good soccer player. He was a really good soccer player at that time. And I knew this could go one of two ways. And the easiest way is to say, you know what, I'm going soccer because I'm really good at that. And, I win all the accolades doing that. And but he said to me, I don't want this to happen again. Can I start training at Askren's? And I said to him, well, I'll do that. And we'll pay for it. And we will drive you there. But it's a pretty big commitment. So if you're going to do it, then you got to do it. There's no quitting in the middle. That I won't allow. You don't have to continue. And throughout his career, when he got frustrated or something, I said, listen, you don't have to continue wrestling. You'll be a very good wrestler. You won't be a great wrestler, but you'll be a very good wrestler, even without going off season. But you have to continue today. That you can't stop right in the middle because we're paying for it and we committed. And so he said, yes, absolutely, I will commit. And of course, he's young, but nevertheless, teach a kid commitment. And he started going, and he went all the time. And I remember even, Askren teaching him on a Saturday, and I looked at the thermometer in the room at one time. It was at 94 degrees, and I was really hot, and I was just sitting there doing nothing. And the kids were like really scrapping. I mean, the mat was soaking wet and all that, but he just kept on going. You just go, once you make that commitment. And I'm not going to tell you he wanted to go every time. He didn't. But, if there was no good reason not to go, then I'd say, listen, you can quit when you want, but after, once our commitment to have paid over the next 3 months is done, if you want to quit, that's up to you. But not today.
I'm sure there was times you want to go too, right?
What's that?
I'm sure there was times where you didn't want to go.
Oh, yeah. It was hassle. Yeah, time sucked.
What's really interesting, Steve, about that, though, and I really love that you said that, is, Steve was always supportive and whatever, but it's like a lot of kids nowadays, I feel like, and I feel like I sound old when I say that nowadays, like, what am I talking about? But like a lot of kids feel like they don't keep their commitments. Like, we're not saying like, hey, you have to be a state champ like Aaron eventually was. Great. If you are, that's unbelievable. We'll be really happy. Great. But if you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't. And my mindset with my baby, right? Like, everyone's like, he's going to be a wrestler. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. I hope so. But if he's not, it's fine. But if he wants to be a wrestler, if he wants to be a soccer player, if he wants to be a base, if you start that season and you start that commitment or whatever it may be, you're going to finish it. And that's it. I'm not going to be the guy that's calling you names because you're not some of these crazy wrestling parents calling you names because you're not getting the result I want right in front of me at the moment. But you're not going to quit. Like, I feel like quit, and I feel like that becomes a habit in life, right? You say, oh, I'm not going to go to practice today. Oh, I'm not going to go to class today. Oh, I'm not going to do this. And I think Steve did a really good job with, especially, Aaron did unbelievable, but just having that mindset at an early age, I think, is super important. A lot of people have the easy way out. The escape routes are there for them. There should be no escape routes. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'll tell you, I told him after wins, I'm not proud of you because you won. I'm proud of you because of all the effort that you put into it. And so whether you won or didn't win, I'd be just as proud of you. And I meant it, because look, you're not going to win every time, but does that mean you're any less proud of your kid because they left it on the mat. I mean, that's life, man, right? Wrestling's metaphor for life. So, I mean, it's not, and the reality is your kid's not always, by definition, not every kid's going to become a state champ. So.
And Steve, think about this, and it's not to Aaron's fault. It's like he dominated his state championship his senior year, and Jacob took second his senior year, and I was very proud of both of them because I know that they both put in the work to be the best they could be, and how could I not be proud of that, right? Like, I mean, it's not Aaron's fault that it was anticlimactic. Well, it is Aaron's fault because he was so darn good, but like he just ran through the tournament. I almost, at the end of that match, I was like, what just happened? I'm so happy, but it was like, that was just so easy. But we'll get to the state. So I'm bouncing around. Freshman year sectional tournament. Let's start there with his high school wrestling career. So at that time, I knew at least that he should be all section. Like, there's no doubt in my mind he should be all section. But I think he was, if I remember correctly, the 6th seed, and the kid from East Randolph might have been the 3rd, right? And it was Brady Robin and Connor Melbourne, 1st and 2nd. So those two guys were like, they were top dogs, state level guys. And then the East Randolph kid was a senior who was really freaking good too. You know, it was like A1 and 2, and then B, and then there was a drop off, right? Like, that was how people were looking at it.
Yeah.
We get into that match, and I forgot which one was which. Like, he won one close, and he pinned him the other time. Do you remember which one was which, Steve?
Yeah, I know he did wrestle him twice, but I don't recall which one was which.
But the great thing about that, I can't remember which one was which, but he beat him in the quarters, and then a lot of people were like, oh, that Wolk kid from Greeley got a nice win there, but
it was I think it was the first one where he was actually losing, and then he ended up pinning him,
which is awesome.
So yeah,
and to be able to come back and beat a senior again, like you were talking about Aaron when he went 0-4 at that tournament, and that never happened again. That kid from East Randolph had an opportunity. You're a senior, you're wrestling a freshman who's a great freshman, but he beat you in the quarters, you're winning the match. Here's payback, 3rd and 4th. He didn't get it. And Aaron won a close, hard-fought match for 3rd and 4th, which is even more impressive. To me, that was one of my favorite, and it's crazy to say because he had so many really cool tournaments and success through his career. But to me, that was one of my favorite tournaments because it really showed what he was made of.
Yeah, I totally agree. That I put that one, junior year Eastern States, and then of course states just you can't be
states.
But, and it's fine. But yeah, those are the ones where you were like, wow, how did he win? And that was yes, he had the skill. You guys helped him with that, and the mindset. You guys helped him with that, and then the heart, as he said, which I don't know that you can teach that. And he just said, I refuse to lose.
That was great. I had so much fun that day watching him beat that kid twice. And D, are you there? You look like you're frozen, unless you're doing like a.
I'll try that too.
Yeah, right. He'll probably come back. But yeah, that tournament, I loved it. It was so much fun. Like, it was fun watching him do that, and then watch him and Matt and Jacob even take their commitment even higher. I feel like after that year, because they had really good success, and they were like, all right, we're here. I mean, Aaron was the type of guy that was going to work hard anyways, but maybe with that little burst of confidence, like, I'm really close. Like, I'm really close to like being the top level guy. Steve, talk about maybe a little bit. Oh, geez Louise, he'll be back. He's crazy. A little bit about now Empire. They Ashton kind of dissolved. Not dissolved. It's still a really good club, but he left. He left New York. Now Aaron and Jacob, Matt, and a couple other Greeley kids are in the same club together. They're on the travel team together. They're going to tournaments in the off season together. How was that? Do you remember like going to tournaments with Wendy and these guys and showing, I don't know, what were some of the Pop and Flow, this one,
right up in Lake Placid and all that. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a big part of it. I mean, well, certainly the Greeley family was a family, and then having all those guys, who I just enjoy being with anyway, and going to those tournaments, and our kids win or they lose, but we all cheer each other on, and all the Empire kids, of course, we cheer them on. It's exciting to be around all of them. Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of that, and it makes a really big difference for a kid, in their confidence, to be able to, not just go to the normal places that you go to, but travel far away, have to try to get a good sleep, even though you're kind of stressed about the match the next day, learn how to do that, and, go to some place that's just very unfamiliar to you. and figure out how to do that. And again, not to, overdo this, but it's it's a metaphor for life, man. You got to be able to parachute in and do your thing. It's fun for me, not always, because, if you lost, but it was fun, just being there and being with people like Wendy, Jose, and David and Kathy, and of course with Carol as well.
I mean, it's great. I think that had a lot to do with, there's so many, like Steve was saying, there's so many things that go in the recipe for their success. I just think that was really important, that you had, a couple other guys on the team that were so like-minded, and the families that were kind of like-minded, and they were all in this journey together, and it made each other better. Like, I always loved coaching at Empire, but when those three guys were there, and I was out at Pop and Flow or something like that, and they were there, it definitely made it more enjoyable for me too, because I'm like, I get frustrated sometimes, and we've talked about this before. I get frustrated sometimes, Fox Lane wins section titles, and A-Rod's the best, and their kids are great kids. And he'll come to me and talk to me and be very, like, thankful to me and John and the club for what we do with their kids. And I appreciate that. But it's frustrating that they keep beating us. And it definitely made me feel good when Jacob, Aaron, and Matt were there, because it's like, those are my guys. Like, everybody's my guy at Empire, because I'm going to work as hard as I can. That's my job when I'm there, right? And when I'm at Greeley, that's my job. But to have, the guys that are here at Greeley and here at Empire, it's like we're doing this together, and it makes sense, and we're working hard. And, so I held a little special spot. And they probably, Aaron, we didn't really talk much about Aaron about this, I don't think. But, like, there was definitely benefits of being a Greeley wrestler and being an Empire guy. Like, there would never be a guy that wouldn't wrestle with Aaron at practice if I noticed. Sometimes he might not have told me, but if I noticed, I would have made sure that they wrestled. Matt was there wrestling with RJ Jack. He had no business wrestling with RJ Jack at the time. Like, I was making that happen. Like, so we really could build, and it's not about winning, like Steve said, but we really could build that powerhouse. If our 15 kids committed to the club, they'd be wrestling with the best kids in the club every day that they're there, and they would be getting that extra attention that other kids aren't getting at that club.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we talk about all the sort of the components that have to come together to help them be successful, however someone defines success, and we all, may define it differently. You guys it just would not have happened without you guys. I mean, there's no question in my mind. And it takes, I said to a lot of people about you guys, they know wrestling. Lots of guys know wrestling, and actually, perhaps wrestling a lot better than a lot of other people, and that's fair. And of course, Anthony, you wrestled, and you were successful in college, and certainly on the state level in high school. But that's wrestling, and then there's teaching, and knowing how to convey, not only the skills but the attitude and all that. And that's so critical, but I don't think many people have that in my experience. And I suppose I've lived long enough to have seen, the difference between people who are able to teach and people who just have the skill and don't really quite know how to, they know it so well, they can't really even teach it themselves because they don't really understand. They can't put themselves in the shoes, of the 7-year-old or even, the sophomore in high school who's not, at the state level, or the junior who's not at the state level. But you guys are able to do that. You're able to teach no matter what the level. And I've seen it, when I've gone to practices, and someone like Aaron, you can, give a kick in the ass. And I mean that figuratively, of course, but and whereas someone else, maybe you'll be a little bit gentler and help them to move on until they get to the next level. And they want, a little bit of a harder push. And that is absolutely critical. It would not have happened without that. So, I know that, the Shrivers and Ferrers and others would agree with me that we feel so fortunate. And not just because the wrestling wins, but because of what it gave them for life.
We appreciate that. I mean, and to me, and Coach, I'll let you get on that too, but to me, like we talked about before, like Aaron winning a state title is the best thing he could have done. But, I feel very confident. And of course it has 90% to do with Steve and Carol, but wrestling is a positive thing in their life. And I hope we gave him a lot of positivity. I feel very confident that he's going to be very successful, whatever he decides to do. Right. And then, like Steve said, define winning and what you think is, success, but he's going to go out there and he's going to be happy and he's going to do a really good job. And he has the right groundwork to do whatever he really wants, whatever he wants. But, Coach, if you want to jump in on that, you can. And then I want to talk a little bit about the change in Aaron I saw.
What hit me earlier on was where all the Empire kids come together and they're all great kids and they're all wrestling D1 or D3 and they're all doing a great job and they're all great friends. When they come out, they're going to be the coaches. They're going to be the next wave of coaches. I don't know if Aaron's going to become a school teacher or what he plans to do. So maybe he doesn't get into that. But the big thing that wrestling needs right now is officials. And I think Aaron would be terrific. And a lot of those guys would be terrific. I hope that a lot of the guys that come out that know the sport and know how these kids move, I hope they become officials because that's what we really need in this sport.
It's hard for guys like, you look at a guy like Brian Rebuto who's big into wrestling, but, and this is not a knock at kids that don't go to Ivy League schools, right? But if you go to an Ivy League school, you probably, I'm not saying you can't be a teacher, yeah, but you probably aren't going to be, but that doesn't mean you can't be involved with wrestling. Like you said, maybe an official on the weekends or, be involved in some sort of way. But, we'll talk as we go on with Aaron's career, but when he's done, even if he can't really coach, doesn't mean he can't do a Sunday at the club or do help us out with a camp or whatever. I would still very much want him involved just because I love it when he comes back for practice. And first of all, I mean, this is a whole other topic, but he does a phenomenal job of helping other kids.
Like, he's great. Really, remember Buetti? Forget it.
And he got through to kids that I had a hard time getting through to because I was so like, and I like to think that we all evolved, but I was so like one track minded, like you got to work really hard and you got to have heart and all this stuff, where Aaron might've been able to say, hey, like you're a peer of mine. What's going on? Like, how can I help you? And he was really good. Like you said, Coach, with Everett and Dom. And I feel like those guys started wrestling a year earlier. They would have been probably sectioned. I mean, Everett Boetti never wrestled in the off season. Once in a blue moon. He wasn't a real off season wrestler. Never really wrestled in the off season. Didn't have a pedigree as a youth guy really. And his senior year, if he wrestled his toughest tournament, he probably was capable of winning the tournament. He took second to Oswego, which is a tough freaking tournament. And a lot to do with that is Aaron Wolk, 110%. And now when Aaron comes back for Christmas break, and all three of them do a really good job with it. But they're so different at it too, which is so weird. But they're all really good at it. But I'll look at Aaron and he'll be working with Michael Machado, and he's really helping him. It's not like he's just playing around and they're joking around. Like, he is really helping him. And I don't even get involved. If I see that, I kind of say, oh, you got him, Aaron? Okay, I'm going to go over here. Like, because he knows how to, like, I don't know if I'm botching my words, but I guess communicate with the kids. I don't really know how he does it. He's really
he does it physically. Like, in other words, like, if he's wrestling a guy that's state level, he's going hard. He's going hard. He's wrestling another guy. He puts the other guy in position where he has to work out of it, and then right when he's about to score, Aaron will.
That's what I used to do to Aaron until he got too good, and now I got to stay away from him.
I was going to say, where do you think he learned that? He learned that from you guys. I mean, but I actually, Anthony, I think you're not giving yourself quite enough credit. And certainly Aaron deserves credit for doing that and having the heart, not just to win, but to help other people to succeed. And I give him all, obviously I'm very proud of him for that. For helping others. But I do remember, you say, he was able to communicate even where you weren't. A particular instance, and it was with Buetti, where you went to Aaron and said, help me out here with something. And I don't know if you gave him the actual words to use or whatever. And this was after a loss. And as you say, Buetti was a terrific athlete and a very good wrestler. Yeah. Especially concerning, he didn't go in the off season. And Aaron, after, you had given Aaron the words or the ideas, and Aaron spoke with him. And I think, Buetti won everyone after that, and, even tough matches in that tournament. So, that's the leadership. So not only is Aaron helping others, but he's actually learning what's the right way to get to someone. Does it always have to be me? Or in fact, does it make sense for me to kind of delegate this to someone else because they have what it takes to get to that person at the right time? And he learned that from you that day. What an experience. How many kids don't learn that until they're, 35 years old and in a management position, and they mess something up, and somebody has to tell them that there's a better way of doing it. But he learned that at 17 years old.
Sure. Steve, you should take some credit for that too, because I know a couple of times, especially when my job was on the line, and Aaron went and spoke, and that was you pushing him, saying, "Look, go do that," or whatever, or if it was his idea.
I didn't have to push him.
or when he advocated for himself for selection classification and went to the board.
Which was so mature at a young age to be able to do that.
And I think that was I always respected you guys for
that's parenting,
allowing him and putting him in that position where, hey, he might be uncomfortable, but it's a worthy cause. And, let them say no to a 12-year-old. And, they did.
In
the other instance, we won that one. So
I will say that to whatever credit, the chair of the board came up to me many years later and said, "You were right."
we got that
got to talk to that person, because the chair of the board should be, fixing that now. But
because Nikki's coming up now too. So Nikki's gonna be a 6th grader next year.
So let me get this out before, because I don't want to go too long. But there's so much. Aaron's career is so crazy to me and so awesome that there's so much stuff in there. But so high school, he did great, right? 9th and 10th grade, he was really good. Made the big jump his 11th grade, where he was absolutely dominant in the area. And then 5th at the state, dealing with injuries. We didn't know this unseeded kid was out for half the year. He shouldn't have been unseeded. He was actually very good. A lot of things happened. But I saw a big change mentality-wise from his sophomore year to his junior year. And it never was a question of heart. He always was tough, always tried his hardest, always fought really hard. But I think, and I could be wrong, but I saw a different type of confidence in him. Where when I would wrestle with Aaron in practice, especially his senior year was different, but even his junior year I saw it. When I would wrestle him in practice, he never like laid down for me, but you could tell when he would take a shot, he wasn't confident in the shot. He wouldn't really think he was going to get it, right? Like he had that kind of mentality. By junior year, and that was just with me. That wasn't with other athletes, but it was like coach athlete kind of thing. By his junior year, I felt a difference. I'm like, there's something different happening here. Like he was feeling like I could score, I could do this, and it started to reflect in his matches, and it started reflecting his leadership, because he would lead quietly as a 10th grader with like a partner or something like that, and he would help them. By junior year, he wasn't the Jacob where he would yell loud and have that deep voice and say, this, but he would sit next to me in DeBellis and he'd be like, well, why isn't he doing this? He could do this. He should do this. And it was perfect because that was him. But he was really and the kids were starting to like maybe not respect him more, because they already respect him because he was a beast, but maybe starting to say, hey, this is a guy to look up to. This is a guy we really should be looking up to. And I don't know what it was, but I feel like from 10th grade to 11th grade, maybe it's just age, but there was definitely a difference. Would you guys say that? Yeah. So that was great. And then his senior year was the biggest jump, where he was just a whole different guy, because we talked about this before, Steve, is where Aaron found ways to win. If something was difficult for him, he wasn't the best in all 3 positions. He was good in all 3. But when you're at the state level, guys are really, really good in all 3, right? So, like, Aaron was really, really, really maybe the best on top, dangerous on bottom, because he was really tough and he would move around. He'd put people in bad positions. But on his feet, he was tough, but he had a little problem there sometimes. And that's what I think developed his scrambling a little more, because he had to scramble sometimes, because it wasn't like clean-cut takedowns. But his senior year, his progression on his feet, to me, was insane. And Steve could say the nice thing, like, oh, coaching help, blah, blah, blah. But it had to be him to say, I've been doing this for so long. This is my senior year, and I'm going to make this big of an adjustment. And he did. He was really good on his feet his senior year. And as the season went on, it wasn't like just senior year, hey, I'm good on my feet. He was better on his feet in November. He was better in December, better in January, better in February, and continued.
That's right.
Yeah, state finals, he hit a beautiful single.
Yeah. He knew it was a weakness, and he was committed, and fortunately you were committed as well, to working on that, that neutral over and over and over and over, and putting so many hours and all the bumps and bruises and all, whatever comes with it. And he'd come back and tell me this story about, yeah, I took Tortora down today. I had his leg, but he got out. And there was always a little bit of a qualification. I took him down. But did he let me take him down? Or no, I think I really took him down this time.
You definitely got some real ones, that's for sure. 100%. He was so smart. He is so smart. And I'm not giving away my secrets, but before states, maybe a little bit less hip pressure from Coach Tortora. But he called me out on it after the tournament. He's like, Coach, were you giving me those scores because blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I don't know what you're and I like laughed at him. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, well, it worked. And I was like, okay, cool. But he's such a smart guy. Like, he just knows. But one thing I wanted to mention, we said in his interview, but this just shows how coachable he is, right? Like, he had a great Eastern States. I think he could beat McFarland, but that kid's a good wrestler. I mean, whatever. The kid stalled. I think that kid didn't want, whatever. But he had a great tournament, got to the finals of really the best tournament there is around. And his quarters or semis, I forgot when it was, but when he had Ganone, he beat him. He out-toughed him, found a way to win overtime. Okay. But if you rewatch that match, and I haven't rewatched in a while, this is just straight off memory, he kept getting on a single, and it kept being stuck mid-level, like in between his legs. And the kid was funky. He had funky hips. And Aaron was either almost getting scored on or not getting the score, and it just wasn't – but we were in so many times that we should have capitalized on it, right? So we remember that, and this is how good of how coachable he is. Like, he's so freaking coachable. So we're warming up before states. And
I have pictures of this, by the way, a video of it.
Yeah, so like
just that.
But he didn't have to – but like, again, I like to think that's us being good coaches, but he didn't have to be able to implement that 45 minutes later. Like, he just like that. It's like, hey, let's do this. Okay. And he just does it. And it wasn't like the kid's successful. He's a killer. Why does he need to implement this right away? Why does he have to trust? Like Steve said, why does he have to trust that? And we're working on getting the single up to our armpit and all these things. First, 20 seconds, coach? Goes out there, takes a single, up to his armpit, takedown. And I looked at the bell, so I'm like, this is going to be a fun one. And that was it.
He's on the ankle. He's on
you know what's great, too? And I'll let Steve talk on this whole scenario, but I just want to add this, too, is he did not catch that man. Sometimes you could say Aaron was so good at the cradle, you could take him, he could get a takedown, transition to it really quick, right? And then they're like, okay, he kind of got quick. They went out of bounds. They restarted. Yeah. And everybody on planet Earth knew what he was going to do.
Right. Yep.
And he still couldn't stop him. And once he had, I remember you like pushing me, coach. Once like Ganone got up to like a quad pod or whatever, he started to come up to his feet, which was the most ridiculous thing that kid could have done. And locked his hand. It was over. There was no way he was getting out. Once I heard that, I'm like, it's done.
Yeah.
Or as Carol would say, it's done. It's done. Isn't that what she said?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's over.
That was
the Haynes
that was beautiful.
That's right. Yeah. No, I was trying to keep myself calm at the time, thinking, all right, we're gonna get 3 off this for sure. So I didn't want to, but and we're gonna be up 5-0 at the very least. So I wouldn't get too crazy with it. But I've seen that. NHSCA, he was wrestling, really great kid also, and actually he was down after he had hurt his knee. Probably shouldn't have let him wrestle. I didn't notice he had partially torn his LCL then, but yeah, he did the same thing, and I think that I'm not going to tell you he was the best in the country in high school, but he wasn't at least one of the top 3 best in slapping in that cradle. Whenever he saw, all he had to see was, a millimeter of daylight, man. And, you put your head a little too close to your knee,
over.
1 nanosecond later, you're in a cradle.
I would definitely, like you said, Steve, top 3 in the country with the cradle, I would definitely put him up there because if he, like you said, even a mistake, he would get it. But once that guy locked his hands, it was bad. Like, I would play around with him sometimes and let him lock a cradle. I would tell him, Aaron, lock a cradle on me just to, like, play. Couldn't get out. Like, he had, like, his grit. And that has to do with Steve, too, though. That's the pull-ups. That's the extra stuff at home. Anybody can lock a cradle. But to be able to keep the cradle and be so dangerous in that position, that's more than wrestling, right? That's grip strength. That's forearms. That's so much stuff, so he was so good.
Aaron did it his way too. Like, we would talk about different things. I'd say, Aaron, why don't you use the gable grip? Try that. And, he would just use the straight finger lock, and he was strong that way. So he actually changed the way we thought about certain things.
Yeah, well, he was good at that. And we talked about that in another interview, where I love it when kids question things as long as they do it in a respectful way.
Right.
Because they're thinking deeply into the techniques and they're trying to learn. And he was really good with that, especially later in his career. And the funny cradle story, Steve, you probably remember this. This was one of my favorite moments too, is Oswego his senior year when the kid was good. He was a small school state champ. I don't think everyone was wrestling his best match. We're going into the third period. I mean, if you wrestle that kid again, he beats him worse. But we're going into you can't beat him worse than the pin, I guess. But
he also broke his collarbone.
Yeah, but we're going to the third period, and he was at the point where he was totally bought in, right? He was listening to us. And I remember saying, I think he was down by 3. And I remember saying, hey, go down, get your escape. And he was getting better on his feet at the time. You know, get your escape, get your takedown, and then we could turn him. But it's a tie match, you know. And he goes, I want to go top. And I looked at him, and at that point, we were, you know, he was bought in. If I said no, bottom, he would have went bottom. But I looked at him, and I remember saying, are you sure you could turn him right now, Aaron? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to turn him. I want to go top. I'm like, you're sure? He goes, no, I'm sure. And I'm like, all right. And I'm like, how can, with somebody that's that good already, that's that established, and he's that confident, why would I not? That would be me saying, I don't believe in you. So go bottom, right? And I'm not going to do that. I'm like, all right, you want to do top, go top. And man, was it a good choice because he slapped on that cradle. That was fun. That was a fun one too.
Yeah. Wasn't that 2 times? Didn't he get it?
The kid broke it.
Did it again?
The kid was one of the first kids I've ever seen break it. The kid was strong. But then he got it again. It's that relentlessness. You know, he's like, nope, I'm going to get this. And he got it so good. Like Steve said, it wasn't intentional. But, like, that kid came to his feet.
No, of course not.
That kid came to his feet. And, hey, sorry, man, I'm winning this match. So we're going to go backwards really fast right now. And he just went boom. And that was it.
Yeah. I think, Aaron had the special ability to suspend disbelief. Like, no doubts enter, you know, like he's on a one-track thing and he's going to get what he's going to get, and he doesn't allow anything to penetrate in there and mess up the system.
And with a quiet confidence, which I love, right? Because there's some kids, and each kid's different, but there's some kids that go, I'm going to be a state, I'm the best, I'm going to be this and that. And sometimes kids need that. They need to tell themselves that. They need to say it out loud. They need to do that things. He didn't need to say it out loud. Right? I mean, if me and him talked about it, he'd say, yeah, I plan on winning a state championship. But he wasn't walking around like the big man on campus. That wasn't his demeanor. His demeanor was, hey, I'm a competitor, right? I'll smile, I'll joke, I'll be a little laid back, I'll be a little quieter, right? But when it's time to go, it's time to go. And you saw that come out of him as a coach and mentor his senior year as well, where he was a little bit more vocal with the other guys saying, like, hey, like, you could do better than this. You know, you could do better than this. And they respected that. I'm going to say one more thing, Steve, and I'll let you wrap it up because I don't want to keep you guys too long, is college, right? Now, Aaron did fine this year, not up to his standards of wrestling because I know he wants to win. And again, it's about success. What do you gauge it at? He's going to be a great guy no matter what. My hope is, because I see it in him, right? My hope is that the coaches, and they seem like good guys, take an interest like we took in him because he is the guy that could jump levels at any level. You tell him that, you know, this is what I need you to do. I want you to work as hard as you can. I want you to prove me wrong in a sense. Like, you know, he could be an NCAA champ. He could, because he has the work ethic and the heart for it. Now, if it doesn't work out like that and he does everything possible and the coaches put everything behind him, great. That will serve him fine either way. But I'm very excited for the next 3 years of his career. Because college wrestling's a different animal. He went there, his freshman year was tough, and he's learning. Give him the support that you need to give him, and, you know, the results could be really, really good. And I'm very excited to follow that. I'm also very excited to see him come back and coach our guys a little bit every break we have. You know, and we're very proud of him. And you guys, I'm sure, and their relationship, the Wolk's family relationship, I think is unbelievable. The support they always have for each other was unbelievable. They should be very proud, as I'm sure they are. But, man, like that, you know, I'm very proud of him, even if he doesn't win that state finals match. And, you know, I still watch that video. I still love it. I show people it. It's awesome. You know, I have it saved and it's fun, man. It's fun. And he deserved that moment. He really did. He deserved that moment because he did everything right leading up to that moment. So
I show it to my kids in class all the time.
It's awesome. I mean, how can you not? Like, I mean,
it's perfect. It's only a minute.
Yeah. Like, unbelievable. Think about that.
It's not like, overtime match where like, oh, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. No, within 30 seconds, you're right into the meat of it, which is great.
Yeah. Well, I said that, of course, and I meant it, that I would have been just as proud of him no matter what. So I've only watched it once times about 1,000. So yeah. If I'm ever feeling down, it's a good thing to watch. It's,
it is really.
It's great, but obviously Aaron has had great success, in wrestling and his academic career and that sort of thing, and in other areas. But I think that, if there's any parents that watch this, I think it's really important to know your kid didn't have to start at 7 years old. They don't have to show that I hate losing and I love winning in the way that Aaron did. There's a lot of ways of creating success, and then you have to define your own success. And if your kid starts, in 9th grade or 10th grade or 8th grade or something like that, you have so many of the right components in place. I mean, you're in a great town. You have, in my opinion, the best coaches for this kind of thing, and not just my opinion. Obviously, they, so they can reach the absolute heights. They can win a state champion. I mean, that's possible. We've shown it. And they can, win a section title. If they're, a girl and they want to wrestle, they're going to get amazing support that way. We've got thicker mats than a lot of high schools. I mean, some of these paper thin mats, which astonishes me, but okay, we've got that. We've got a lot of the good things. So even if you start in whatever 9th grade, I mean, your kid can achieve so much for life. So, man, I'd encourage you, just go for it. And, quite frankly, you want to get into a really good school, wrestling's pretty good. And once again, Aaron perhaps is the poster child for that. I don't mean to put him up, like, gee, he's the best. And there's a lot of great kids who are better in, in both sports and academics. But the point being that you can achieve this stuff, no matter when you start, where you start, as long as you're willing to help your kid and they're willing to put in, some good effort, and at the high school is great if you do it and go to like Empire as well. Your chance of success, because you're getting a lot more mat time and strengthening and all that, will go up, exponentially.
Yeah. I mean, I've said that same line this year. It can be done. Look at Aaron. You can be that guy. But it wasn't overnight either. Like there was a lot that went into it, and I still use Aaron sometimes. Like we were talking about the Everett story, about how I must have said something to him. I still have him do things like that. I mean, these kids look up to him. So I'm super proud of him. I can't wait to see what's next. Coach, you have anything else for that?
I thank you for a great run. It was, these interviews just make me miss wrestling so much. And really, I feel like kind of like
the moment again.
What'd you say?
It makes me feel like I'm in the moment again when we're talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, and it's tough because a lot of that stuff blends together. And to remember all these great times, I wish we could get in that time machine and go back and watch some of these guys.
And it wasn't that long ago, though. That's the thing, too. Like, so for the guys like,
it makes you appreciate what's coming.
With the guys for Oliver, Michael Amachai, the guys that are our seniors coming up this year, this is somebody that was 2 years older than you. Not to say they started a little later in the game, but like an Oliver, I was talking to Oliver, just we'll leave this with this, Steve, because I think you'll find this interesting. We were talking yesterday, and we're doing team Zooms twice a week during this, right? So we're doing team Zooms and all that stuff, and Oliver asked me to send him a workout. Now, I was sending workouts for 3 months to these guys. This whole time this was going on, I was sending workouts. And I was like, no, you figure out what you're going to do, and then you send it to me, and I'll tell you if it's good or not. Because I want him to be confident in himself and believe that he could do it himself. And Oliver is a guy that went from 0 wins his sophomore year as a first-year wrestler, literally 0-25, 0-30, whatever he was, to 20 wins this year as a junior. And is his finish line Aaron's walk finish line as a state title, pin in 50 seconds? No, it's not, right? But could it be an all-section wrestler? Could be a section champ? It can be done if you believe, right? If you believe in your support system, as in your family, if you believe in your coaches, if you believe in your teammates, you could do something substantially different than you maybe originally thought you could have if you just trust. And I think that's super important, you know, and I think he's a different type of poster child than Aaron, right? Where it's like, hey, we could do that. And you're right, Steve, with the school thing, we didn't really talk much about it, but all of our great wrestlers, especially Aaron, did well in school too. So it's not an excuse that, oh, we're so busy. I think it might have helped, if anything, you know?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point.
He's the third wrestler from Greeley to go to Brown, as far as I know.
Third, right?
Frank and Steve Green, I think.
Oh, Steve Green, I don't know about.
One of the guys from the from the 70s or the 60s, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah, well,
wow, you really know Greeley wrestling history.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
I don't know who it is, but there was a Brown. You know,
I knew Greg.
Huh?
I said I knew Greg, but I didn't know about Steve Green.
I think Steve Green is one of them.
All right. Well, Steve, you're the best. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
Hope to see you next year at tournaments that we hopefully will be having, you know, and everything's good to go. But that's all I got. D, you good?
It's done.
Steve, stay on for a second.